Good morning everybody and welcome to Thursday's English lesson. Yesterday you wrote your first paragraph of Howard going down the passageway and the staircase, describing him really well, what he can see, what he's touching, if he can smell anything. Plus give me a really vivid description of what he looks like, maybe what he's wearing, how he looks, what his eye colour is, like anything from really something to specific to how he walks. So that should have been a really in-depth paragraph yesterday, and today we're going to do another paragraph about him knocking down the wall in between the passageway and going through to the antechamber. So our LO again is to write that narrative. So our success criteria today is we're going to use lots of show not tells. So really thinking about not telling the audience exactly how Howard is feeling or exactly what he's doing, but we're going to show him through his emotions and through his body language. We're going to think about using those high level verbs as well. He didn't just push the wall down. He chiseled it down, he moved it away, it crumbled, it didn't just fall down, it crumbled, it cracked. Yeah, really thinking about those verbs. Again, those 5 senses which are so prominent when it comes to writing a narrative and immersing your reader. And then we're also, in this paragraph specifically, going to put a little bit of punctuation in there because, again, like we did in space, we spoke about how these historic monumental times are often remembered by the speech that comes from it. And Howard Carter said a very famous speech as he entered the tomb of Tutankhamun that again will go down in history, and I think it's really important that we put that in our narrative as well. So the focus is that we are going to write the second paragraph to create suspense as Howard knocks down the wall to enter into the antechamber. So what I need you to do is flip to your plan that you should have done last week. And oh no, this week on Tuesday. You should have done it on Tuesday. And I want you to have a look at that wall that separates the passageway and the antechamber. Can you close your eyes and can you imagine what that wall looks like? Remember, it's been there for thousands of years. It's never been discovered before. It's in the middle of the desert. What kind of things are on it? Is there any hieroglyphs on it? Is it full of cobwebs or insects or even snakes around it? What kind of things is on it, and how would it feel? How would it smell? What would it be cold? Would it be hot from the sunshine? Would it be crumbling? Would it be quite strong? And I want you to really have a think about that wall because that's the one that we're chipping down at today to enter into the antechamber. I want you to watch this clip that's also attached on Dojo, and I want you to watch it from 4 minutes 30 because before that it's not really relevant. And this clip is a cartoon model of what the tomb looked like and what was inside. So we're not going to really start talking about what's inside today. That's tomorrow's job. Today's job is just to knock that wall down in our story. But I think watching this clip will help you really imagine why he was so excited to knock it down because of all the treasures that lay before it. So again, watch the video for me and then come back to this slide. So I've wrote a model paragraph which is the highest of expectations that I want to see in your second paragraph as well. So he's come to the end of the passageway now, and this is where I'm going to come from. Read along with me. You can read it out loud at home or follow it on the screen with your finger. Crouching at the end of the passageway, after tiptoeing down what felt like 1,000 disintegrating ledges, Howard began to loosen the stones and chip away at the ancient plaster with his vintage leather-handled chisel. The stone wall began to spit back at him, decorating his shirt in antique residue. His top brow glistened with sweat, and his eyes glowed with the determination to discover what he was so desperately seeking. Standing like a statue, he held his breath as the crumbs of plaster started falling from the wall, like the way hail falls so aggressively from the sky. Sealed for thousands of years, the tomb was finally revealed. Howard, without diverting his eyes, slowly placed his chisel in the rightful opening, and his jaw plunged with his discovery. Around him, the wall crumbled like a sandcastle in front of the wave. he was through. A familiar booming voice came from above. Howard, what can you see? Howard could hear his heart thumping from his chest, and without hesitation he whispered to himself, wonderful things. Releasing what he had discovered, he jerked his head and shouted joyful up to the light again, wonderful things! So here on this page here you can see my model paragraph, and again I'm referring back to the text detective that we said right at the beginning of week of what makes a really good narrative story. Now I wonder if you were looking with your close eyes to see if you could spot any of these phrases that I want from my text detective. I wonder if you can spot any in my paragraph. Can you pause the slide now and have a look through before we go through it together and see if you can spot any in my paragraph? Good, so we're going to start with prepositional phrases. So I'm going to colour that one in red, and prepositional is all about where. So where something is. It's an adverb of place. So here I've got at the end of the passageway, so that tells me where it was. After tiptoeing down what felt like 1,000 disintegrating ledges, Howard began to loosen the stones. The stone wall began to spit. Nope, nope, nope. His top brow glistened. Nope, not there. We haven't got that many in this one. This is more for our next paragraph. Can you spot any more? Joy's plunge around him, so that tells me where it was. It was around him, so that's a prepositional phrase. Howard could hear his thumping from his chest, and without hesitation, booming voice came from above. So that's a prepositional phrase as well, because that tells me where it was. Relative clause, I wonder if you can spot any. Again, this is something I could up level to give me more information with my W word, and I can't spot any from just looking now, and I wonder if you can, and then tell me in the comments. But I'll leave that one for now. I'm going to put in blue for the adverbs of manner, about how he's doing something. So downward fellow, Howard began to loosen the stone to me. Can you spot one? Desperately. Standing like a statue is also a simile, but it's an adverb of manner. Aggressively. Finally revealed. Slowly. So you see I've got quite a lot in there as well. 5 senses, I will do purple. You should see it on your screen. So I've talked about what he can see, what he did. I haven't really done about what he could smell. I did what he could hear here. His thumping in his chest. His jaw dropped here, where his jaw plunged. I could talk about, if I was to up level, about what he could taste on his jaw. Maybe the lips, the sand coming up took over his lips. I've talked about what he can see. He didn't divert his eyes to put in the chisel away, so that tells me his focus remains straight in front of me. Oh, I don't want to write that. I want to get rid of that. I'll rub that one out. Don't want that. There we go. So I've got a few of my 5 senses as well. He jerked his head and shouted joyfully, so I've got what he said. I've got what he heard about the voice coming down. Next, any expanded noun phrases. So I've definitely got some about the plaster. I've got some about his brow glistened with sweat. The crumbs of plaster. A familiar booming voice. That's 2 adjectives to describe the noun. Powerful verbs. I've got crouching. I'll do that again in yellow. I've got crouching, so it tells me how he was doing. Tiptoeing. Spit back at him, and again that's for some personification as well. because he didn't really spit at him, but it gives us a really good image. We've got placed, not put his chisel, he placed his chisel. His jaw plunged, his jaw didn't drop, it plunged, which is a really nice one. We've got that he whispered, he jerked, so there's really nice verbs in there. Now suspense, what we spoke about over the last couple of weeks. Again, I like doing a dark blue, and I want to see if you can spot anything that I've put to suspense. I know there's some short snappy sentences. I've done some ellipsis that I've just circled. There's some short snappy sentences within this top paragraph here. And there's this one here, he was through. So I'm doing as much as I can to keep my reader on the edge of their seat. And then finally, we've got some show not tells that I will do in black. So something that tells me without, it shows me without telling me what he's like. So I've talked about his top brow glistened with sweat. So usually when someone's sweating, they're working really, really hard. So obviously he's chipping away really viciously and vigorously, so he's beginning to sweat. His eyes are glowing. So that obviously means that his eyes are wide and they're focused and they're glowing. So he's obviously really wanting to see what's coming from there. His jaw plunged. So if somebody's jaw falls open, they're usually shocked or amazed. So that's some show not tell. His heart thumped is usually when someone's excited or their adrenaline is pumping. So that tells me about Howard. He jerked his head, tells me about the way he moved his head in a show not tell. He didn't just move it around quite slowly. He shouted joyfully, tells me how he shouted and tells me that he's so happy to be saying those key things. So I've done that for you, and I want you to write your own now. Really, you can pause this page as you write it, and you can use my model to help you, always referring back to this section here of the text detective and the things that I want to see in your writing. The other thing I want to see in your writing is this really key quote here, which is wonderful things, okay? So as he was down the passageway and the stairway, he was the only one down there. So this familiar voice was Lord Carnarvon, and obviously he was the patron and the aristocrat that funded the trip to the Valley of the Kings. So he is at the top, and he asks Howard, "What can you see?" And that is a really famous quote that he said, because Howard Carter was down there on his own, and as he peeps through the gap in the wall and he is able to look into the antechamber, this is what he can see. And again, leaving it on this nice speech keeps me on the edge of my seat wanting to read on to my third paragraph, where I start writing about my antechamber and the things that and the treasures that I can see in my antechamber. So I really want to see this famous quote in your second paragraph, please. So now it is your turn. I really want to read your second paragraph of the narrative, all about Howard smashing town, that should be down the wall, and entering the antechamber. Tomorrow's paragraph, we're going to focus on the preposition of the antechamber, of where things are. So don't go too far into explaining, but I just want to see him knocking down that wall today. And like I said in the last slide, I would recommend going back to the last slide and pausing it there whilst you write your own. Good luck, and I can't wait to see them on Dojo.